Ladies and gentlemen, this is an episode of In Full Stride that I and many of you have been looking forward to for a long time. I'm Carson Gabaro here, joined by Jayden Smith at NJIT. Jayden, welcome onto the show.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You're a guy who has so much intrigue, not just as a state champion sprinter from Dobbs Ferry, but you've also got some NIL deals happening for you. You did some coaching over the summer. Didn't you also do some race car driving?
I did. That was one of our team outings, so it was very fun. We didn't do too good, but we definitely want to get our revenge, so we'll be back.
Still, though, you're really becoming a do-it-all kind of guy, and you've made it clear that the biggest thing you want to do is what you're doing here at NJIT at the very highest level. So, how does it feel to know that you can really find yourself through this sport and all sorts of other activities as well?
It's been a journey. It definitely had some ups and downs. It's definitely my senior year, there were some up and downs, a lingering hip injury, going into states even. I sprained my ankle the day before I was supposed to run, and I came up on top, one state champion with a sprained ankle. So it was definitely a whirlwind, I would say.
That's crazy because I would argue on paper, what would you say is your better sprint event between the 1 and the 2, the 1 or the 2?
I would say definitely the 200, even though my 200 time doesn't speak for what I could really run.
Right.
I feel like at my height, it's definitely hard to, run the 200 very properly. So that's why I came here, so my coach could teach me how to run it.
Yeah, that's why I specified on paper, because you would run 10.7 in the 100 and 21.9, which is still very solid in the 200. But the ankle sprain, I would argue the 200 is probably the hardest sprint that you have to run off a sprained ankle. Yes, there is the 400 where you have to run 2 bends, but you don't have to get out in nearly a full sprint like you do in the 200. So just what was that challenge like physically powering through that into getting that state title?
It was hard. I talked to my cousin the night before, and he was just telling me, like, this is my last race. It's my senior year. Go out with a bang. He told me not to put too much pressure on myself. I was very, stiff in the left side of my body. I was nervous. So, I wasn't feeling 100% confident in my ability. And, I had to, really focus in and hone in on what I'm capable of and say, okay, this is what I have to do, and let's go get it.
In those moments where you're not 100% confident in what you've shown you're capable of, right, it's got to help having a cousin, like you told me, was an Olympian before you, to help mentor you and keep you confident in the work that you've done.
Yeah, Brijesh, my cousin, he definitely is like my biggest mentor. He's done everything for me. He trained me most of my Dobbs Ferry years, and he got me to where I wanted to be. I would definitely say without him, I wouldn't be here right now. It's not every day you find out that your cousin's an Olympian, so it was really nice to figure out that, he got to run with the best. He got to run with Johan Blake, Usain Bolt.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive right there. What was his resume like other than just being alongside those guys?
He represented St. Kitts for a couple years. He did two Olympics. He has a world championship medal for the 4x1. So he definitely has a big resume. He's well connected. He's one of the best coaches I know personally. And now he's kind of just shifting to being a coach. And he's going to be a dad soon. So Uncle Jayden coming into full effect.
Uncle Jayden, that's freaking awesome. I would say Unc, but I'm like going on 25 right now, so I can.
I've had a couple of kids call me Unc.
I could very well inherit that status as well, even though I have no siblings right now. Do you have any brothers or sisters, just out of curiosity?
No,
okay,
I don't.
So 2 only children on the podcast together. This episode was destiny right here.
It was destiny.
Yeah.
I'm my mom's one and only, so I definitely feel like it's my job to just try to make her proud, do right by her. So like my mom's like my pride and joy. So I do everything in spirit of her, and this is why I came here. I came here to be not only a Division I athlete, but get a great education, and NJIT is known for that.
Absolutely. And the facilities, you could see this is the Health and Wellness Center, right? The Wellness and Events Center, more formally, right behind us. It is huge. They've got 3 floors. They got the indoor track there. They don't even have an outdoor track here at NJIT, but that does not stop these dogs from really pursuing what they're hungry for.
Right.
But obviously, I'd imagine that adds a little bit of extra challenge and hunger, right? When there's not an outdoor track, when
Our
you have to
outdoor
work
track,
with what you got.
Our outdoor track is not that far. It's like 5 minutes. So
Which outdoor track do you use?
We use the NAS track. That's like 5 minutes away. I'm still getting familiar with Newark, but it's a great track. It matches our colors at the school. And usually it's when we're there, it's like a private track, so we have it all to ourselves. We'll take the NJIT vans over, and we'll just train there. So it's really fun.
Yeah, and I believe I saw a couple days ago your coach has been posting a lot of the early season workouts that you guys have been doing, some tempo 200s. How's the body feeling now that you have had some time away from racing?
If I'm gonna be honest, sore, definitely sore. It's hard getting used to like the Division I level of running. I'm still understanding some concepts, some new things I've never done before. An extension and warm up, it is definitely different from what I've done in high school, but I think that it's really helping me, in my training. I'm definitely feeling faster. Even in the early stages, I'm feeling way faster and more efficient.
Yeah, and you actually just had a lift before we started this episode
Definitely.
too, so just learning all the different body functions that you might not have been fully aware of when you were still in high school. Just what have been some of the eye-opening things that you've experienced there?
Our strength coach, Gallagher, he just got back from paternity leave, so it's been fun having him. Definitely be back. He brings a lot of energy to weights. He definitely introduces some new things. Our weight room is very high tech. We have sensors that track our metric speeds and things of the sort. So I definitely think that my training is going to another level of scientific research and things of the sort.
As I've continued to geek out on different methods of sprint training, a lot of science-based methods have really come across my field of view, if you will, metaphorically, of course. It's my YouTube recommended. But, it's stuff that I've initially thought to myself, okay, don't over-obsess about that, but I just can't help but be interested about that. What's your perspective like now that you have been introduced to science-based methods of sprinting?
To be honest, completely honest, my cousin has always said, you don't need all the scientific devices and you don't need all the equipment to be great, So even when I was in high school, he kept it very simple and plain. Deadlift, squat, anything that wasn't necessary, he would not do with me. So it's definitely more so, he focused on what really mattered. Coming here, I don't feel like we overdo things too much. I do feel like it's a lot more scientific based, only because, now I'm at a different level, and, that different level requires more specification.
Yeah.
But, I'm very happy here, and, I think the weight room is definitely different. It's definitely more high tech. We have Vault machines. These are like $1,000 machines, so it's great. I love it.
Yeah, it's got to be more so like an evolution of what your body had been used to prior with a lot of the simplicity. You just kind of expand on that, and I think that's important just in any level of fitness when you're pursuing a higher level, is to just give your body new challenges. That's one thing that I used to be so averse to. I just do the 3 main compound lifts in the weight room, for example, bench, squat, deadlift.
Right.
I still do primarily, but variations I think have just been a huge game changer. Is it a lot of variety in and out of the weight room for you guys?
Definitely. So the way my coach breaks it down is we have 3 phases of each training method. So right now we're in phase 2, and this is considered base training. So phase 1 will be different. It was more so hill-based. Phase 2, we're starting to hit the track a lot more, do tempos. So like, as you saw, 200 tempos. And everything's starting to dumb down, and we're starting to kind of transition into our phases of indoor season and getting ready for indoor season. Our first meet is December 6th. So, it's going to quickly approach, and now it's just time to kind of ease our body into the track.
For those that are dying to know, where are we going to see the Highlanders indoor season debut?
It's going to be at a St. John's Invitational. So that'll be December 6th at the Armory.
All right.
I'm excited. I'll probably be running the 300. I don't know. Only my coach decides. But, everything that I've been doing in practice shows great, success in the future.
Yeah, with the tempo 200s, I think the 300 is a real great start for you with that speed endurance to eventually build back into that raw 10-7 and counting speed, of course, counting downwards with the improvement mindset considered. But to start off with some speed endurance, that's probably going to be just a nice way to rekindle with an old friend, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the 300. It's like my best friend. It's like I don't have to go too fast to get out, but then I also have to kind of give like some 200 strength in the end. It's definitely a nice mix to me, you know, and I love it. I've been doing some great times in practice. You know, I think recently I went 17.2 uphill in a 150.
150 uphill. I don't know if I've done that in a flat 150.
So you know,
maybe on a straightaway 150 I could.
Just hitting that time was definitely impressive to me. It shows that like where I am right now is definitely where I want to be, definitely for my future goals. So it's just building off of that.
Yeah, and you did make states in twice that distance, the 300. That was one of the other times. You had made it to states twice before you'd won state championships, but just to get back to that improvement factor, I do not think I mentioned the fact that before you became a state champion, you'd never placed at states.
No.
Yeah.
No, and that's the thing with me. I'm a workaholic. When I know that I'm not favored, I say okay. What can I do? Move in silence and do it. And you know, if someone asks me what's your goal for this year, I'm gonna tell them it's state championship or, you know, NCAA championships or whatever the case is. And the thing about me is eventually I'll do it. You know, with me, I don't just say something and it never happens. I say something and I make it happen.
So you're not necessarily worried about all these goals happening immediately. You just know what your goals are and you're going to let time take its course?
Yes, definitely. And that's one of the things my cousin definitely preaches. He says time. It's only a matter of time before things come to fruition. So it's just being patient, trusting the process, taking it brick by brick. You know, Rome wasn't built in a night or a day.
No.
So, I try not to put too much pressure on myself, you know, no matter what.
And I think one of the other big factors into continually building those bricks, more so physically, is the recovery aspect. And I believe you've gotten some good NIL deals with Celsius, right?
Yeah, Celsius. You know, my portfolio is growing. I'm definitely happy with what I'm doing on the NIL side. You know, it's been a journey on the NIL side. It's been a blessing as well. You know, I've been working with some big companies and some also growing companies that are becoming very popular. Brewery, Celsius, Bucked Up, C4, you know, and then I'm working with like some industry plants that are, you know, innovating how we recover, like the one I just did with EOScope. So it was very fun.
Yeah, that was yesterday, the day before this recording, right?
Yeah.
And you made a nice little trip into the city. And, you know, obviously it's got to feel like a lot on your plate now that you're becoming in contact with all these different companies that you might not have even thought you would cross paths with a year ago.
Yeah, it's definitely hard.
It's got to be another great source of knowledge for you as you continue towards your goals.
It's definitely hard. You know, it's even harder knowing that now I'm still a student athlete, but the workload is heavier. You know, I have obligations at practice 2 times a week.
It's almost like you're absorbing some of what it's like to be a pro while you're just trying to figure out college. So that's a really tough balance right there.
Yeah, it's hard. What I do is I take a deep breath and I tell myself each week I have to make sure that I'm at my best. You know, I never put pressure on myself to be successful each week, but more so I put pressure on myself not to be a failure. So, you know, just making sure I'm doing something successful each week, you know, whether that be, you know, talking to someone new, being kind, you know, those are always big on my list, you know. Yeah, I
think you've done a pretty good job of that thus far. We're having a good conversation.
I'm trying.
But thinking about the failure, one thing I love about track and field is I feel like it's a sport where athletes that have failed in the past can really find new senses of drive that they had never found before. Can you think of an instance where you had that inspiration off of a failure?
Definitely. It was definitely, I won't even lie, it was after states in Syracuse. That was probably my moment. That was my moment where everything changed for me and where I said, now it's time to really hone in on what I'm good at, you know, and say, okay, let's plan. I got on the phone with my cousin. I talked to him. I said, I'm coming to Nebraska because that's where he's out of right now. And I spent a week there and we just trained. And I came back to New York. I continued and everything started going uphill from there.
What was the biggest difference between that Jayden that had failed at 2024 states by your standards and the state champion at 2025 states Jayden?
Definitely the old Jayden cared. And that's one thing that I've learned. You know,
Interesting.
Yeah, you have to not care. And that's for anybody that, you know, might not know how to get over failure. You have to stop caring. If you don't care what people think, if you don't care what is said, you allow yourself to be free from the shackles of, I guess, conspiracy and just people chatting behind you. So that's what I did. I stopped caring.
That's a great point, because I've teased it a lot less specifically, but the goal of becoming an Olympian. You've been posting just about every single news update on your story about LA 2028, making it pretty crystal clear to everyone who sees, whether they agree or disagree, that that's where you want to be. So I assume now that you can make those posts without that worry, because you freed yourself now.
Yeah, I freed myself. I know 2020 is coming. And, I talked to my coach. He knows it's a doable goal. BJ thinks it's a doable goal. And now it's just, what can I do to make it happen? Taking my recovery into effect, talking to my strength coach when something feels off. And, the reason why I'm posting about it is because that's how I do it. I post it, I'm consistent. If you look at my laptop, LA 2028 is actually my lock screen. It's my home screen, it's everything to me, so.
So I'm sure that that's another good source of motivation whenever you get tired, whenever you're sore like you admitted you were now, when you see that just helps you lock back in?
It feels like destiny to me, a lot of people don't know. I've moved around a lot as a kid, so I've never really had one place that I've always lived, and I think that's made me diverse. But one thing you might not know is I was born in LA, so.
Oh. I did not know that.
Yeah, it makes it very...
I knew Jayden Daniels. I'm a Washington Commanders fan, but Jayden Smith was also born in LA. The more you know.
It's definitely the reason why I'm very faithful in this happening. It just, everything aligns, the time aligns. I'm around that time getting into my peak form physically, strength-wise, and, I'll most likely be like a junior or sophomore in college, so it's definitely where I want to be.
Yeah, and you'll be more familiar with the college process by then, so some of the things that might have seemed intimidating over your first month and change at NJIT won't be anymore. Not to say it won't be challenging, but yeah. What do you have to say about your overall college experience thus far?
It's been fun. The food is actually pretty good. We have a gourmet dining hall. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love the chicken.
Is that special for the athletes, or you got the mix of the residential?
My teammates, we constantly are like GDS party. It's really good food. That's how I feel myself, so it's really good. Everything about college here is definitely a lot easier. My professors are very understanding. I love my coaches. They're very empathetic. And, my teammates are great. My roommate's great. Now it's just growing, my brand on and off campus, showing my face around campus, bringing that kind face that, lights up someone's day.
Yeah. When did you first get a sense that you wanted to show the world just the great person that you are on social media?
It was definitely when I saw how bad a lot of things can be interpreted on social media. I've always been a person to spread kindness. That's like a big thing to me. I love people. I love, being friendly. If you ask anybody on campus who has met me, I've met them randomly. Like, I'll see them on a bench alone, and I'll just go sit with them, I hate seeing people down. So that's definitely something that inspired me to really make my social media a place that people can come and feel happy and see encouragement and motivation and determination.
How do you keep your message clear? Obviously, when you're an NIL athlete, you do have to do some paid promotions, but how do you keep the message of who you are clear through all of those?
A lot of my followers know I'm honest, so no matter what, I always pick the NILs I can be honest about. If I have to lie and say that this product is good and it's not, I won't do it, because then I feel like, in my view, I'm not giving my followers a genuine aspect on a product. I'm just telling them what I need them to understand for a paycheck, and I won't do it.
Yeah, it's that important balance that you have to strike, those boundaries that you need to set. And one thing that I'm sure helps you do that, you have an agent, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Right now I'm actually interviewing to get more agents and,
Wow.
kind of just see how I can level up in that area. So I've been talking to a couple of agents, I'm in the scouting world right now looking for a better agent. So that's, It's been a journey, but you know, I'm definitely liking some of the people who have presented what they can do for me long term, and I'm loving it. So it's definitely going to be something cool to watch out for.
I've got to say, your agent from it's Next Gen Sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I think it's an acronym, NXGT.
Right.
But yeah, it's short for Next Generation. This episode probably wouldn't be completely possible without them. So huge shout out to your agent for helping put all the pieces together and, you know, obviously putting you in a position where you have leverage to scout further for agents so you can look for greater deals. Do you have any bucket list companies maybe that you'd want to represent?
That's a good one. So, I mean, some of the things I've been working on, don't tell nobody. This is exclusive right here. I've been trying to talk to Adidas. That's been a big one for me. We are an Adidas school,
yes.
So I do believe it can happen. That's been a big bucket list for me. You know, I mean, why not take advantage of the fact we're an Adidas school?
It's funny, I was thinking about this before coming here, right? When you told me that the 200 was your better sprint event by your view, that's not what I would have been expecting. Sort of how when Noah Lyles won his first world title in the 100, people weren't expecting it because he was a 200 main. Right. So it's almost like you did the opposite thing where you, as the 10-7 100 sprinter, came up to win the 200 meters. So you have that versatility, you have that voice, and building that platform. Yeah. Obviously not a bad school to be at for it either. Yeah.
I'm trying so hard, you know, I'm trying to motivate change here. You know, I do think that, you know, often more than not, we go to schools and we have this D1 name, but track is undermined. And I want to bring a voice to track and show how interesting track can be. You know, track is not necessarily a safe sport. You know, we both know the Armory curse and everything that's ever happened at the Armory. You probably know, you and Taylor probably know.
Yeah.
The Armory is not always the safest place when it comes to 4x2s. So I've experienced it myself.
Or 300s like you're going to open with, but hey.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting sport. It could get very interesting at times. Over the years, we've seen track be kind of aggressive sometimes. So I think that brings a lot of entertainment to our sport. And, you know, I definitely think we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to look at it from a safety perspective, because not even just the contact with the rail that can happen during indoor season, but all of the contact that we sprinters make with the ground. I don't think the average American truly understands just how many pounds of force in a 100-meter sprint that a sprinter exerts into the ground.
I think it's close to 1,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And that's not over a very long distance, but just the amount of training and power and understanding of force application, like you talked about earlier, that's necessary for that just goes way over the average American's head. And it's one thing that if the sport really needs to get that mainstream, that needs to be understood.
Yeah, I'm really excited for what track holds in the future. You know, I definitely think that we're heading in the direction that we want to head in. You know, just like you were talking about athletes, that's a big deal. You know, being able to put a long jump pit in Times Square is amazing.
Yeah, I was there last night. It was the first full long jump competition I had admittedly ever watched. But
I will admit, my mom is a big fan of the stud buds, so shout out to my mom. She loves the stud buds. They're in the WNBA.
Yeah.
So loves the stud buds.
Taylor and I were literally watching. They were right across the pit from us. I was wandering, and I ran into Taylor and a few other media people I knew, and the next thing I knew, they uncovered the sand pit, and they were raking it and everything, and then the stud buds are right on the other side of that pit.
Yeah, my mom loves them.
Crazy.
You know, it's come to a point where she'll literally eat and just watch the stud buds. So, like, shout out to my mom. She loves them. So, hopefully one day, you know, she can meet them.
Yeah.
So maybe I can make that happen.
Maybe everything will come full circle at LA 2028.
All prayers to God. I hope so. You
Amen.
know, I definitely think that it can happen.
Yeah.
I have all the assets I need to make it happen. You know, obviously you see this and, you know, this is where it happens. This is where I make it happen.
And again, circling back to the most important one, in my opinion, just the patience, the not setting a hard deadline on the in-between checkpoints that you know you need to hit in order to get there.
I have 2 years. I have no rush. You know, I'm just focused on being me, you know, being happy. I don't want to go into a sort of depressive state from pushing myself too hard mentally and physically. You know, so now I'm just enjoying the college life, enjoying more freedom, you know, the I guess in a way less class schedule. I love it. I only have like 2 classes a day and only 1 class today.
Wow, yeah, and just that allows you to spend so much more focus and energy on the stuff that matters to your athletic career,
right,
while also getting to keep a clear mind when you're in the classroom.
Right, yeah. My professors are great, and that's the thing that NJIT does great. They bring in so many professors from diversified fields.
Yeah.
And, actually, we just went up in the rankings nationally. We're number 80 in the national rankings for schools. So I definitely think I made a great decision for academics. And, I definitely think I'm learning a lot of life skills I could take into the real world.
Like what?
Introduction to business is probably my favorite class.
Yeah.
It teaches me about, I guess the mistakes of what a lot of businessmen have done in the past.
Yeah, because you are a businessman now.
I am.
If you think about
I am. I decided to study business entrepreneurship. I've definitely taken that on, and I've loved it so far. A lot of people think it's not the hardest major, but I think that it's a major where you can be creative. It takes grit. It takes everything I feel like an athlete has to be successful in the entrepreneurship world, and especially because sometimes you got to be broke to come up with a great idea. And I think that some of the best ideas have definitely come from people having no money, and that's a cool thing I found out, like living in Dobbs Ferry. Mark Zuckerberg went to Ardsley, so, he didn't start out with $1 million.
Technically a fellow Eagle, right?
Yeah.
Because Dobbs Ferry and Ardsley, they're both Eagle schools.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to know what I was surrounded by and who actually went to school near me. So it's definitely an inspiration to just continue to strive to be a businessman and be genuine and make genuine connections.
You're an innovator, man.
Yeah.
And you've got a great freshman season ahead. Do you want to close us off with any big goals that you have heading ahead to your freshman year?
Big goals. Let's see.
He's got big goals.
I got big goals. But my biggest goal, I would say, is probably either making NCAAs outdoor, definitely a big goal for me.
Yeah.
Or being top 100 in the country this year. That's definitely a big goal for me. And I would say probably end my summer with maybe representing St. Kitts in a future meet. You never know, so definitely look out for that.
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled for all that is in store for Jayden Smith here. I want to close us off with one final fun question, because obviously your name, I remember the first time I called a race of his, it was at that Syracuse States. I had to make the Icon Living pun. Were you ever a big fan of Jayden Smith, obviously before he changed his name to Jayden, his stage name?
I honestly, it's been funny. My whole life I grew up, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, we're about to get to meet Jayden Smith. And it's always like, guys, relax. His name's not even spelt the same way.
Right,
okay.
yeah. He doesn't use a Y.
Yeah, it's just it's funny to know that a lot of people relate me to Will Smith and the whole Smith family. But, I go along with it. I love it, and now it's time to let me take over. So that's that's another goal. Take Jayden Smith over. I want to be the one when you search Google, it pops up next to him. That's a goal. Maybe
it was destiny that he dropped Smith from his stage name.
Maybe, because now it opens up some room for me to come through.
We're getting extra superstitious here. From modern hip hop back to the days of Stevie Wonder. Music is great, man. Do you have a favorite song?
A favorite song on my playlist right now that I'm creating for the season. It's definitely Shabuzi.
Yeah.
The Drink Doesn't Need Any Mix. That's a great song. So definitely listen to it. I'm getting introduced to a lot of new artists. I'm listening to a lot of Leon right now. Mutt is probably the most known, but I'm kind of getting deeper in my bag with Leon, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. So.
Yeah. Had to throw that in there so you guys could have some extra sources of inspiration. If you're inspired by this episode, be sure to leave a like to support Jayden and help get his name and brand out there even more. Thanks so much for taking the time, man. Have a good one.
See you later, man.
Yes, sir.